All right, I'm sitting here thinking about how so much of what people think of us is a projection of what's going on inside of them and very little to do with us. And I have shamelessly exploited this fact to unhitch myself from reactions I might have to people's dislike, contempt, disregard, disrespect, whatever provocative, negative behavior that might make me feel bad. It's not just a cope, it's really an actual active strategy to say, look, I see that your perception of me is this way, and that within that, um, you don't have a very high opinion of me. I also know that you don't really know me. And in some sense, nobody can really know another fully. And so you've got to consider the extent to which a person knows you. This is also why I take it a lot more personally when it's somebody who has had the opportunity to know me, who has indicated to me in various ways that they do kind of understand who I am. And in that, it's a little bit harder to say, you don't know me, you don't know what you're talking about. But even there, there's an extent to which we can say, you don't fully know me. You don't necessarily see me as I am in this moment. None of us are fully able to see one another with, without the filter of our values, beliefs, experiences, drives. All of this stuff is going to put a filter on the lens through which we perceive one another. And so we're going to be giving and receiving on this count. And I find it useful to acknowledge that a person can't fully know me, may not be experiencing me as who I actually am in the moment, and that a lot of what I'm receiving may have to do with stuff from within their own inner experience and prior experience in other contexts. And to be able to stay clear and present and responsive rather than reactive. And in doing this, I give myself the space to sort out what is and is not relevant. Right now, I'm looking into things about salience and default mode network, and my interest is in figuring out how we can condition these systems and apply some, how would I put it, agency. Again, we're back to agency to steer the way we perceive, experience, respond, and behave in the world in general, because that's what others will ultimately experience of us. It's the quality of life we'll experience throughout these processes. It's the results we're going to get. It shapes our reality. It defines who we are. It is absolutely a critical skill to develop if we want to be in our own power with clarity and the ability to act according to what we consciously choose for ourselves, understanding the unconscious forces that underlie it. So here I am working down one line, and this comes up for me, and I say, oh, yeah, this is the thing about it, because I'm also dealing with some frustration around this truth right now. There is, it's a double-edged sword. There is a gift in knowing that people don't really know me, and a lot of how they're perceiving me and interacting with me has a whole lot of nothing to do with me. It gives me a chance to try and figure out which part is about me so that I can take accountability and make adjustments or perhaps be a better advocate for the position that I intend to hold on a matter. Um, there, there are a lot of advantages to somebody looking at you and being like, I don't like you, or conveying this in some way. And so I'm trying to actually not just cope with the feelings of it. That's not a solution. Coping is not a lifestyle. It's an occasional useful stopgap and little more. What we need to do is to, what I'm working to do at least, is to condition these systems to be able to create space, take things apart, know what is and isn't for me to put my energy and attention on. As in understanding this is about me, and maybe I was a little glib or brash or obnoxious in some way, and I need to dial that back. Or maybe I can look at it and say, no, I feel very sound in my position. And when I behave this way with others, I don't have this kind of feedback. I don't have these issues. I'm going to stand here and hold my position because these are the opportunities presented to us to sort ourselves out along the way, while also being able to sort out what isn't about us, what is about others. And we get to know others through this because through our projections, we reveal a lot about ourselves. And so it's also an opportunity to get to know others and really understand the situation. It gives us space to process emotions and formulate responses from, again, more conscious places rather than reactive places. And we're always going to be more effective in response versus reaction. Um, but the other part of this is I've realized it's the same thing underlying a little bit of the frustration I feel of late because I don't feel very well known by the people in my lives, maybe lives, because we live on many different fronts. We have a work life, a home life, personal life, a social life, right? Um, yeah, in my various lives, I don't think most people really do know me, and I'm often struck. I feel a little wounded sometimes. I'm like, oh, that's how you see me? Oh, that's what you think of that? And it's not even so much what's revealed in that more immediate way, but the fact that it indicates a lack of real understanding and knowledge of who I am. And it's a tremendously lonely feeling. I'm learning to work with loneliness. It's something I have a strange relationship with loneliness because I'm a bit of an ambivert and I really do love having my solitude, my time to myself. I do not function if I don't get that. I'm not somebody whose company you want if I can't be left in solitude now and again. Um, then again, you leave me in solitude a while, I get crusty and weird, and I find I do need to be among people having those social exchanges because that is also part of me. And finding the balance is what really helps me to be my fullest, most balanced self. And so for me, loneliness is a weird thing because I'm very rarely lonely when I'm by myself. Although lately this has been coming up because I don't feel I just don't feel really known by people. And there is something alienating about that. And I'm very grateful for the social connections I have and the many gifts I get through those social connections, the opportunities I have to give something of my own to them. But I don't feel, what is it? There's something about love is when people, true love is when people know you and love you anyway. Like they actually know you and they still love you as a whole complex person. And I've seen this happen where if a person has a lot of respect and regard for somebody, but they also acknowledge their faults or limitations, others might assume you don't like that person. And that's not the truth. If anything, it makes it more possible for you to truly know and like them because you're taking them on as a whole, multidimensional, paradoxical person. And I made a note earlier about how if we want to be well and whole, we really do have to learn to live in multidimensional and paradoxical realities because ultimately that's where we are, that's where we live. This is not one dimension, this is not one simple truth, black and white, there it is. Look around. This is a very complex system we exist inside of, and we are complex systems arising in response to that. And if we can't know and embrace each other for all that we are, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and determine that that is still someone we like, we love, we respect, we want to spend time with, then it's not really real. It's at least not very substantial. There might be some real kernel of something in there, but it's not substantial. It's not encompassing. It's not whole. It's cherry picking what we want to think or experience with others and trying to fit them into that concept rather than embracing them as all that they are and developing concepts that allow us to hold all of those paradoxical aspects as part of one whole that is ultimately the true person. And I try to know people as the true people they are. And so sometimes people think I don't like a person. I'll be like, well, they say they have trouble with that. They're like, oh, you don't like them? I'm like, no, I'm just saying they've acknowledged that for all their gifts, for all their virtues, they also struggle with things. They also have shortcomings. And I've had people be like, oh, so you don't like them? I'm like, no, not at all. But it gave me an insight into how it must work that on some level I feel like people do see me, they do like me, they do embrace me, and I do feel a connection with them. But then you get a certain ways in and you're like, oh wait, you like the tip of the iceberg. You don't want to know about what's below the surface. You're not really here for the whole thing. You're just floating by, like taking in that one small piece that's immediately evident to you. And so I'm just realizing there's a double-edged sword, and this ties in a little bit with me exploring what loneliness means for me. And I think there's something here that's really underlying the quality of loneliness that I've been experiencing lately. Because we all on some level experience loneliness, and it it almost always requires others for me to feel lonely. But even in my solitude lately, a few times it's crept in, and I've been like, what is it? Why is it that I feel there's something missing from my social experiences? And I think it has something to do with this, the fact that the same thing that makes me free makes me a little, I don't know, makes me feel a little exiled. I feel like I'm on the outside of things, and I'm just a passing image more than a real person at the table engaged with the people in my life. And yeah, there's something there that is coming up around the double-edged sword that is the truth that we don't really see or know each other fully. And I think that this can be improved upon. I don't like to raise an issue that I don't have some suggestion toward a remedy, right? And I think the remedy is that we learn to know and embrace ourselves more wholly so that we aren't as prone to project or limit others through our own disavowed and limited aspects. If we can fully embrace ourselves, we can more fully embrace others. And through that, we can have richer, more reality-based connections because some of this boils down to it's like magical thinking. Like I'm going to take a picture of this person and then they're going to stay within the frame of that picture and make it easy for me. That's not how humans work. That's not how relationships work. We're messy, we're erratic, we're unpredictable. Things change. Even the most steady people will surprise you. This is just how it works. And trying to hold a picture of a person and constrain them to that image, it's it's a little dehumanizing, first of all. It limits us in our ability to understand and connect to others. It reduces others' capacity to be fully, genuinely who they are. And I think it drives this disconnection, this loneliness that so many people feel. So I found the good and the bad on that one. It's the gift of knowing you don't really have to take it personally, but at some level, it's hard to feel that you have a meaningful personal connection, that we can't find relationships where we really do take the time to get to know one another as, you know, the whole mixed bag of virtues and foibles and gifts and limits, and we all have them. And so my hope is that through studying this, I can learn better ways to create steps toward that, I guess. I think it helps us to have steps towards a thing, to understand the mechanisms and how to use them in a progressive way that allows us to come out in the desired location with that. So here's me pushing these ideas around and spitballing in I don't know how many directions that was, but that's an interesting insight for me at the moment, and I'm gonna go back to work on what kicked it off, but I wanted to capture that while it was popping. All right, that's what I got for that. Thanks. Bye-bye.